Ready? Yeah, we're ready. Go ahead.
April 25th, and it's 4 o'clock, and I'm calling the borough meeting to order. And I will start by leading the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building, on the borough website, and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mrs. Ballmiller. Here. Ms. Lambert.
Here.
Mr. McCaffrey.
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
She just said it, I saw her mouth go.
So I can't hear you.
You're muted.
Thank you. Unmuted.
Her sound must not be working.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Mayor Davis.
Here.
We have three meeting minutes for approval without formal reading. The March 11th regular meeting, the March 28th agenda meeting, and the April 8th regular meeting.
Is there approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ordinance 2024-5C, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 141, Peace and Good Order in the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to amend and clarify sections of the Borough Code related to vessels within the borough's riparian grant. It is also to recognize and preserve shellfish history, protect our current resources, and most importantly, educate and promote our local heritage for future generations. Final reading.
Okay, this is the final reading, so we can open this to the public to discuss, and at the end of that, we can comment ourselves. So opening the floor to public comment. Anybody on Zoom or in the public that would like to come forward and speak, please come up, state your name and address. Open the floor. Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak to this ordinance? Debbie? Yeah.
It's down short for short people. Deb Whitcraft, 528 Dock Road, Beach Haven. After reading this ordinance, my only suggestion is, number one, there's no requirement. Hey, I didn't touch it. There's no requirement for insurance. And when I used to rent a boat slip at Dock Road, I thought we had to show proof of insurance, liability insurance on our vessel. I would think this is an important thing that should be added to this ordinance, especially since they're going to be tied up to the municipal bulkhead. That was number one. On the ordinance, it has to do with the Dock Road municipal dock. It says permits issued by the borough for the use of boat slips cannot be assigned or transferred to another individual under any circumstances. That should also apply to Pearl Street. I think that's important because if somebody takes out a permit, they should not be able to assign it or transfer it to someone else, but that's not contained in this ordinance. There's going to be a maximum of 10. It would be good if there was a limit to how many permits could be provided to one family. So as an example, the Ballmiller family, if they have 2 or 3 permits, I don't think that's fair to other people who may want to have a free municipal boat slip at Pearl Street. So I think there should be a limit per family of 1 boat slip so that everybody has an equal opportunity of securing those boat slips. The registration of the vessel, I know that this ordinance is it's supposedly drafted to preserve, maritime shellfish history and all that, but yet it allows for people with recreational licenses, not just commercial licenses. I was hoping that it would be just for commercial licenses, but you've included both of them. But the registration of the vessel should match the name of the person who is applying for the permit, who can prove that they are a bona fide Beach Haven resident. So the names should be the same on all of those, the residency, the shellfish permit, as well as the application through the borough. And I've spoken to Sherry, and Sherry has assured me that the applicants for these licenses will be properly vetted, and I believe her. But I would ask that you give consideration to limiting it to one per family and being sure that these registrations do in fact go to bona fide Beach Haven residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody on Zoom like to speak? That would be our next, nobody on Zoom? Anybody else in the audience like to speak? No? Okay. Yeah, yes, yeah, okay, go ahead.
John Halpern, 319 Fairview Avenue, Beach Haven. First of all, I want to thank the council for trying to come with some sort of compromise on this difficult issue. As I have stated in many prior meetings, this issue came before the Taxpayers Association back in 2022. We were concerned at that time about insurance, and I am still concerned at this time about insurance. As I have stated in prior meetings, the taxpayers of Beach Haven should not be having to be exposed themselves to unnecessary risk if someone gets hurt, if a commercial or residential boater is tied to a public bulkhead. So I guess for the record, I'm going to make this following recommendation to council. The borough, as part of the Ocean County Joint Insurance Fund, as you know, is protected with proper insurance and defense and indemnification agreements if held by a business entity. But according to this ordinance, any boater, whether registered as a business or not, can access the bulkheads in the borough, creating liability and public safety issues. The bulkhead belongs to the taxpayers of Beach Haven via the riparian grant. The taxpayers should not assume any risk that because of liability or exposure issues, as I was stated in the past. The taxpayers are assuming the risk if these businesses do not have insurance and the borough gets sued. It is unacceptable, in my view, for the taxpayers to assume any risk for businesses using public space. Therefore, I recommend that the borough requires that all private entities conducting business on public property maintain adequate liability insurance. In addition, to further protect the taxpayers, the borough should be listed as an additional insurer. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's somebody else? Yep.
Carol Weissman, 310 Southwest Avenue. I just want to also reiterate what Deb said about making certain that the people who apply for the license indeed are the same people that have the boat registered, to them, and that also that they should not be able to transfer the usage of that slip to anyone else. And a question which has the process for how the permits will be given been decided yet? What, if we could share what that would be in terms of notification and giving others in the community an opportunity to apply should they want to?
Say that one more time.
And what the process will be to apply for a permit and when it will be. And we've only got 10 slips available,
This
so,
ordinance becomes effective May 15th.
okay,
So
so
upon effective date of the ordinance,
someone could come on the 15th and then ask for a permit.
there's an application process, yes.
Okay, and the application process is online?
No, the forms are in my office.
Okay, so someone could just walk
You
in.
know, pretty much the procedure is in the ordinance.
Okay.
It'll be required, but the paperwork is in our office.
So, but someone could apply on the 15th, fill out the paperwork and come in and ask for a permit on the 15th.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak?
Have someone online, Nancy?
Yes, please.
Tom Fox.
Yes, I have a question, and I apologize. I got into the meeting late, so I probably missed a fair amount of the
State your
conversation.
name and address.
Okay, Tom Cox. I live at 409A Pearl Street, as well as 329 Holyoke in Beach Haven, both addresses in Beach Haven. I missed part of the beginning of the meeting. Apologize for that because I had trouble getting in. But I have a question as to how the decision was made on the size of the boat and the type of the boat, and would like to understand, really who made that decision?
That's hard to say. I think the majority of the boats were, I know your boat's 24 feet. I think the majority of the boats were less than that. The water's fairly shallow at the east end of that area. And I don't think there was any really scientific or a whole lot of discussion or thought put into the size of the boats that could be there, Tom. Sorry to say. I don't know if
Yeah,
anybody
actually-
else wants to add to that.
Well, it's going to be like a Bayman's type of area, and most of Bayman's boats were Garveys or duck boats. Those are the only ones that I really know about that are Bayman's boats.
Okay, but again, somebody made a decision on the size of the boat. I'm just trying to understand how that was made.
I don't think there was a lot of discussion about it, to be perfectly truthful.
I
The
just
draft
feel
of
like.
the ordinance, the draft of the ordinance has been reviewed by council for a while, and it hasn't been brought up to be changed, so everyone must be in favor of the way that it's written.
I think that was part of the ongoing compromise.
Yeah, I just feel like there's targeted intent here because my boat is bigger. And feel like it's, coming from a specific area. And I just, I'm having trouble understanding why, we're not grandfathering the people that are there.
Can I say something? Sherry,
I mean, if
Oh, yeah,
anybody wants to
speak,
address
go
that.
ahead.
can you hear me?
Sure, absolutely.
I wanted to sort of reiterate what we've read before and sort of I think our mission statement for this, which was about the Baymen who work the Bay. We salute their independence, hardworking attitude, and being respectful family men. This was written by our local historian. Baymen were proud and knowledgeable, who knew every inch of our Bay. Most said that the Bay talked to them. They were known for making do with what they had. Their boat was a Garvey, flat-bottomed and easy to maneuver. In hunting season, they used the sneak box. In the 1880s, both boats were conceived, designed, and built in West Creek in Barnegat. In warmer weather, they made their living off the bounty of the Bay, including fish, crabs, clams, oysters, scallops. In colder weather, they shot ducks, geese, etc. I won't read the whole thing, but the last sentence, 2 sentences. In short, the Baymen had an important part in developing this town. They loved Beach Haven, and so we take a moment to salute them. They definitely earned our respect. And based upon that, I mean, this has been going on for years before I became a council member. We've talked about it more than I think we've talked about anything, at least during my tenure. And I think that at this point, you know, we have to do something because we've had so much back and forth with the public. Tom, I'm sorry that you do have a bigger boat. But if opening this up the way we are now, instead of just leaving it the way it's always been, I'm picturing, if we don't limit it, many boats of your size. And I don't know. I mean, you've been there for 23 years and you haven't had to pay for a boat slip. I'm sorry about that. And I feel, I don't know, I'm torn about it just for that reason. But I do think that in my mind, the purpose of this is to protect our local fishermen, clammers, oystermen, and give them a spot that they've had for so long. And it's not to discriminate or to target anyone else. It's just that the boats are small, you know, I don't speak boats, but they're very small boats that just, to me, will not bother the neighborhood. Not that you bother the neighborhood. It's just the way it is, and it's something that I'm going to support tonight. But I am really sorry that you have to move your boat.
Anybody else on council like to say anything?
We have another one on Zoom.
Another person on Zoom, okay.
Jason Murray.
Hello, Jason Murray here at 408 Coral Street, Beach Haven. I am also a resident of the immediate neighborhood there. My family has had a home at 409 Pearl Street since 1990, just above Tom Cox, who just spoke. I would also question the intent of this ordinance. It feels like there's a very small vocal minority who is pushing for it. We have been in that neighborhood for close to 34 years. We've had a boat there during much of that time. We've never had any issues with any of the baymen, any of the clammers, any of the other boat owners that live and work in that nearby neighborhood and have the boats there. And so this ordinance does feel like it's unnecessary. I'm not sure of the problem that it's solving or addressing, because there hasn't been any problems as far as the neighborhood and the residents are concerned who live there.
That it?
I think we lost him.
I'm not sure where I cut off, but sorry. Yeah, I'm just saying I'm opposed to the ordinance, and I think the rest of our neighborhood is as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom? All right, is there anybody on the council that wants to speak to this? So do we have a motion to approve this ordinance?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
I'll abstain.
Ms. Lambert,
Yes.
Mr. McCaffrey,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
I'm gonna have to vote no. I know I voted yes the last time, but after thinking this over, I just don't, I'm not comfortable with it. I do feel that we're making it extremely restrictive. And personally, I'd just rather go back to letting people park there and not tie up to the bulkhead. So I'm voting no.
Thank you. Ordinance 2024-09, capital ordinance of the Borough of Beach Haven in the County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, authorizing sewer main and lateral replacements Stratford Avenue, Bay to Oceanfront, and the main relining of Dock Road from Delaware to Pennsylvania, by and for the borough and appropriating therefore the sum of $375,000 from the sewer fund balance of the borough. Final reading.
This is final reading, so we can open it to public discussion. Again, if you would like to discuss this, come forward, state your name and address, and of course, it's open to Zoom as well. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this ordinance that's in the room? Is there anybody on Zoom? Anybody in council want to say anything before the vote? Okay, do I have a motion to approve this? Second, is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McCaffrey?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. 104, opposing the ongoing increases in the gas tax and other fees imposed by the state of New Jersey, negatively affecting Ocean County residents. Resolution 105, allowing the budget to be read by title only. 106, authorizing reimbursement for sewer repair costs. 108, awarding a contract to 84 Lumber and approving an expenditure not to exceed $57,000 for the purchase of handrail parts for beach entrances. 109, approving an application for fireworks display for August 31st, 2024. 110, adopting the Beach Haven Police Manual and Rules and Regulations. 111, approving participation in the 2024 Cops and Shops Initiative and accepting a grant in the amount of $1,440. Resolution 112, authorizing to advertise for bids for the 2024 sewer replacement project, Stratford Avenue. Just read that one. And finally, resolution 114, we're adding authorizing the circulation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement, 2024 bond anticipation notes. That is an authorization to go ahead and roll over our notes.
Would anybody like to remove any of these resolutions for further discussion? No, no, so bearing that in mind, do I have a motion to approve the resolutions within the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McCaffrey?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
I have a bill list this evening in the amount of $152,238.61.
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay. Or second?
Second.
Okay.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McCaffrey?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
General discussion, the first item is just a quick review of the curfew ordinance that we implemented last season, near the end of the season. We had a plan to just revisit it.
Right.
So how do y'all feel about it?
Well,
Well, let's talk to Chief. We instated the 10 PM curfew approximately after July 4th, correct?
I believe it became effective in August.
15th?
August, yeah.
Right, so tell us a little bit of if it was effective.
It was effective. We were able to get the kids in some of the parks to clear out a lot easier because it was something we were actually able to issue. I would only ask that you guys give it a little bit more time. Let us start out the summer with the curfew, set the tone for the summer, let them know what we expect, and go from there. If after that, you decide you want to go back to midnight,
What time are we closing the parks?
9 p.m.
Okay, that's.
The parks and the beaches are closed at 9 p.m.
And
so you have a
last
9
year-
PM, we have a 9 PM park closure. How was it getting them out of there at 9 when the curfew's at 10?
It's been fine. We haven't had any issues. We just tell them the parks are closed. They start walking around, they start finding their way home. And as they're walking around, officers come up to them, identify them, tell them, you have to be out of here by 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock rolls around, they get another warning, and then they get a ticket if they don't leave.
Okay.
It's my understanding that if a young person is walking on the streets after 10 and they're like purchasing an ice cream, or they're doing their shopping, or they're riding home from work, they will not be fined or.
We didn't have any complaints from any of the business owners last year. Any ice cream places, stuff like that was open past 10 p.m. We didn't bother them unless we did run into a few times where out in front of Ben and Jerry's, there would be a fight with a bunch of kids. We would come up and we'd just move everybody along and be like, 10 p.m. curfew, leave. They would all leave. The few families and kids would come back to get their ice cream, and as long as they weren't causing a problem, we didn't bother them.
Okay. Any other?
No, I found that most of the retail stores are closing before 10
Mhm.
anyway. They're not staying open. When I was walking around and asking them about the teens and the problems they were having specific issues with groups of teens coming in and with their backpacks, and they weren't allowing that. And so they were like areas, they were just closing their doors at 9 p.m.
Yeah, we were mainly having problems with, pizza, like Bay Village Pizza, 7-Eleven, teen nights. Other than that, really no problems at the ice cream places or anything like that. People, when we had problems there, we moved them along, and it was handled easily.
How does anyone feel about revisiting this in July, like, mid-July, to see if we see how it's working instead of just,
I would say the end of July.
But I think that's a good idea. I mean, the worst problems are usually the beginning of July, because it's crazy then.
Yeah, certainly.
See how. Yeah.
I would say the end of July, just because we know July is a very busy month. We had the big problem. It was in the middle of July a couple of years ago. And last year we had that blackout week or whatever they called it, where all these kids came down right before they went back to school and did a lot of damage around town. We had a lot of issues. So I would like to see it at least through July and then take a good look at it. Kind of what Jamie was saying, my experience was I was talking to some of the businesses, and I know one said they'd been gang rushed a couple times, so they are now closing their doors early. Another one said they just closed down because they can't stand the kids coming by and either throwing stuff in or whatever. And that is kind of very upsetting to me, because Beach Haven is a family resort reputation. And people say, I'm afraid to go out at night with my family because all the kids in the street. This is not a look anybody wants. For a resort town to have a curfew is not great. But when you ask around, you'll find out that a lot of our neighbors have had to go with this out of necessity. And we can review it. And certainly, the chief would be a very integral part of that. But I think we need to keep it. And I think we need to keep it at least through July, which we know is our busiest month.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I do agree that we should keep it at least through the third week in July. I'd like to revisit it then. And I do know that we've had some incidents, and no one's arguing that, and I believe it to be true. It is true. But I do think that Beach Haven is, 99% probably the safest town. Anyone that visits, it's a very safe place to be. And I want to remind everyone of that. We've had a few incidents, but it's not, gang, I just get a little concerned with the word gang and just, I know the mob mentality is one thing, but I just want to remind everyone that we actually do have a very safe town, thanks to the chief of police and his wonderful staff. And I don't think it's, I'm not saying that we wouldn't reinforce it, but I just think that it's something that we shouldn't just blanketly approve and not think that maybe it'll work. Maybe this 9 o'clock closing the park and knowing that there is a curfew, it'll really help the situation, and maybe we won't need the curfew after that. But I think revisiting it after the third week in July is a good idea.
I think we should keep it where it's at right now. I don't know about in the middle of July. It's usually into August when you really start getting the crowds down here. Like I said, we could revisit it again.
Yeah, let's just revisit it.
I'm sure that the chief has done a good job with his men, using discretion with a lot of it, and that's a good point that he has there. So I would say yes, definitely revisit it, but I wouldn't get rid of it completely yet.
No, I'm not suggesting that.
We're not saying get rid of it, we're saying just relook at it and see if it's working. So what, can we, just, let's continue on with this and, and sometime around the third week or so of July, the last week of July, we can talk about it and see, have the chief come and give us a report on, and we'll know if there's some major problems. I mean, we'll hear about it. So we can readdress it then. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Yeah, July.
Okay, the next item is a slew of proposed ordinances. The first one is a proposed ordinance for teen night. Myself and Colleen Lambert, Mike McCaffrey, we did meet with Mr. Batista to discuss some issues with teen night. Did you guys want to discuss your concerns?
Okay. As I mentioned at the meeting, I've never been a big fan of teen night. I just didn't feel it was appropriate. But the police department for a few years has found that it was a good place to keep the kids kind of centered. They knew where they were. They knew where they had to address their staff and that kind of thing. And then after last summer, most recently, we kind of discussed, I believe it was in March, when we sent out the invitation. He said, well, teen nights. And the chief said, you know what? He said, and he can certainly come up and speak for himself when he wouldn't. He just said, you know what? There's just been too many problems. And he spoke about the number of calls they've had, the number of officers that are getting tied up, whether it's before, during, or after. I know in the previous years, the first aid squad has talked about all the times they've had to answer calls and get tied up. And when a legitimate call for something else comes in, they're, dealing with a drunk teen. So based on what the chief was saying, I had to agree. And I kind of did a little research, and it was interesting because I think Beach Haven and Belmar. Now, I called and I wrote to the ABC, and they will not give you the statistics. They said town by town, so you got to find out for yourself. So I did the best I could. And as far as I can tell, along the Jersey coast, Beach Haven and Belmar are the towns that are still having teen nights. And it was interesting because this phrase comes up over and over in other towns' ordinances. The purpose of this article is to protect the welfare of the teenage population by prohibiting their congregation upon premises licensed by the borough pursuant to the state law to dispense alcoholic beverages. It is found and determined that the atmosphere of a bar, even though not selling alcohol at the time of certain events, is not in the best interest of teenagers. The borough is therefore invoking this power under Title 33 of the New Jersey statute to protect against said activities. So Beach Haven has had this for a very long time. And for a long time it worked, but I don't think it's working for our town anymore. The police are having a hard time. The Juvenile Justice Reform Act has come in and has greatly limited their ability to respond and how to handle teens who are having difficulties or giving them problems. We've had complaints by some of the neighbors for littering, trespassing, trying to use bathrooms that don't belong to them. They're supposed to be for their business. I believe from what the chief has said and what we're saying is that at this point in time, the cons outweigh the pros. So that's why I am in favor of doing away with teen nights.
Okay. My problem is with the Attorney General. He came down and issued all these laws, what police officers can do, and pretty much give the juveniles carte blanche on what they can do. They sit there, they curse out the police officers, they, do everything that they want, and the police officers have their hands tied that they can't really do much to them other than with the curfew. I mean, even if they're out there drinking, they can't even stop them for that. They might be able to pour it out, but they could also find themselves in a lot of trouble if they do. So their hands are all tied up. We have teen night and people are coming in from all over the place. I mean, we're not just talking locals. They're coming in buses. They're coming in, they're on the internet. They're going to meet up down here and they're going to have a fight or whatever they're doing. And it's too much. There's way too many kids in this town, and it's not locals. They're coming from all over the place. when I ran on the premise to try and keep this town a family town. I'm sorry, teen night does not make it a family town. It's out of control. And until the Attorney General changes his mind with a lot of laws and stuff that he put into effect, I say, I would like to get rid of teen night. And until they do something about it, as far as Attorney General goes, I said, then we'll look at it again.
I'd like to, I don't disagree, with most of what you both said. And I know that, teen night, I've never been a big fan of teen night myself but the one thing I think that would be fair would be to hear from, Mr. Batista and CJ Mack and hear what they have, if they have any, way to be able to mitigate the issues that have been brought up to them and the concerns. I mean, we've had teen night for over 30 years. And look, my kids never went to teen night. Nobody liked it, but there are a lot of local kids that do go to it. I know so many kids, my friends, my grandkids' friends they're not just out of town. There are people in Manahawkin, they are still local kids. They work on our, I'm just saying that it's not just people from Staten Island. I think that's a minority. There are a lot of local kids. Can it be a problem? Yeah, I agree. It can be. And we need to do something about it. I do think that it's fair to give them 1 year. I'd like to hear what they have to say. I don't know if they're in the room right now, but I personally would like to know give them an opportunity to defend themselves and to give us an idea of what they were willing to do this year if we allowed them to have a 1 year sort of trial to see how it goes. But that's how I feel. I just think it's, we gave the Seashell a year. To mitigate, we had many complaints about the noise, and we gave Tommy a chance to get it right, and they made some changes. They came in, they met with Sherry, and they made some changes that hopefully will work this summer. Before we shut down outdoor music after 10 p.m., we gave him a chance to make it right, and I think it's only fair to give them a chance to make it right for 1 year. That's just how I feel. Thank you.
Jamie, do you want to say?
Yeah, this has always been a topic of discussion every year. Every year there's issues that come to council, and then the businesses meet, they make concessions, and we compromise. The biggest problem for me this year is that I've actually seen pictures and video footage of a couple of really disturbing things that I cannot unsee now. And for me, I've sat in the line with Chief and the Sleos. The kids are very disrespectful. Overall, there's a lack of respect for authority. Unfortunately, the teenagers, that's not the minority of them now. The majority of them, that is how it is. It's unfortunate, but that is what's happening. So we have problems with the line. There's a lot of kids coming in, waiting in line, going into other businesses, using the bathrooms, and then leaving all at one time as well. Puts a strain on our police force. However, I don't want to limit business innovation. I don't want to limit how a business is trying to succeed in such a short season. However, I think it is responsible for the Marlin to take responsibility of the videos that are out, because if and when they ever reach the public domain, I want them to take accountability for what was occurring, explain if that was a one-time occurrence, or that's because the videos kind of look like the teens were not hiding what they were doing. They were not hiding what they were doing. They were acknowledging that they were being videoed. And it was really disturbing to me as a parent. If I send my daughter to a place, I want to be assured that the adults there are responsible, that they're being supervised, and they're teenagers. They are habitual line steppers. It's up to us to rein them in and to really supervise them and make sure that the environment that they're in is safe. And for me, right now, the environment is not safe. So although I don't want to limit business innovation, my first priority is the safety of the people in this town and the community integrity. So I would like to hear if there is type of concessions from the business owners and manager, but that's where I am right now.
Very well said. I agree with you. I don't like to
Can you
disrupt
use your
business
microphone?
innovation.
Can you scoot up to the mic a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
I, like Jamie, don't like to disrupt business innovation. Back when I was a teenager down here growing up, they had a place called the Garage, and we called it the Garage a Go-Go. And actually, Bruce Springsteen actually played there, and that was a place for kids to go and dance and meet kids, and we need that. I mean, we're closing the parks down early so kids can't hang out there. The beaches are closed, and I know there's too many kids, and I know it's a different world out there. We have social media that, you know, encourages them to all meet together, but kids need a place to go, and they need a place to meet other kids their age. Not everybody has the yacht club to hang out. And I feel like Kitty and Jamie, if a business can come up with a plan that can mitigate some of these problems that I'm concerned about, I think we should at least give them the opportunity to try. And if we still see really behavior that we think is bad for the town, and then we can crack down. But we did this a few years ago with Bird and Betty's. We gave them an opportunity to clean up some of the problems they were having, and they did. And they continue to have teen night, and they're not having it this year, but that was their decision to make. So I do think before we just say we're getting rid of teen night, I think we should give a business, any business that wants to do it. And there are places that don't have liquor license in other towns that do have teen night gatherings. They're not bars, but they do have them. So it isn't that there's no place in other places except for Belmar and Beach Haven for kids to get together and dance and do that sort of thing. So I just like to see us be a little open-minded. I wish, you know, unfortunately this isn't the right time of year, but it'd be nice to hear from some of the teenagers themselves. Most of these kids are nice kids. Most kids are pretty decent kids. And it is true, there is a lack of respect. But, you know, I think if kids start to realize that it's their behavior that's going to determine whether these activities exist or not. And if they can clean up their behavior, and the establishment that wants to do this can mitigate these problems, I think we should allow it to try to be able to run a successful teen night. That being said, I guess, do we want to open this to the public now, or do we want to wait till all the?
At least hear from.
Let's hear that from the chief.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Chief.
And also, is Michael there or CJ?
Yes.
Okay, I'd
Yes.
like to hear from them too.
Yeah, but yeah.
All right, you guys touched on almost all of my points. There's a few things. I'll just start from the top. Is obviously the Juvenile Justice Reform Act definitely tied our hands. There's a lot of things we can't do with the kids now. It's not only about a lack of respect for authority, they have a lack of respect for anybody else's property. And that's kind of our big problem, is we have lines of kids who start at Center and Bay, comes all the way down here to Ingleside, and all the way down to the front of the first aid squad. There's 500 to 700 kids in line, and between 1 and 2 hours, they're in line waiting. We've tried to address that issue with suggesting online ticketing, so maybe they would know they were going to be able to get in. That was one of the problems with Bird and Betty's. Bird and Betty's would have 500 kids lined up. They'd let 250 in and say that's it, and you'd have 250 angry kids. He lets them all in, but they're waiting for an hour and a half plus to get in, to make sure they get their spot. Online ticketing would definitely help with that. The fights in line have increased in the past few years. We've had kids come down teen night from Lavalette, vandalize businesses. They smashed the windows in the businesses. I've had officers that were injured from that incident, end up going to the hospital and was out on medical for the rest of the summer. We've had buses come down from, I believe it was Long Island. Kids were in the bus drinking the whole way down, came in, went in teen night, got in fights, got kicked out. Then they were our problems. On their way out, they stole bags, the kids' backpacks, because the kids just leave their backpacks places. And, we caught them with the backpacks, only to not be able to charge anybody because of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, but call their parents and have their parents come down from New York and pick them up, which then, in that case, we were tied up for hours with that group of kids. For one juvenile, we have to have 2 officers with them. It's not like an adult. We can't just arrest an adult, take him in the station, and it's one adult and 1 officer. It's, we have to double up on them. While they're waiting in line, they're drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, all of which New Jersey doesn't have a problem with. We can give them warnings for that. Nothing ever more than a warning. But during that time, there's no bathrooms available to them. They're waiting in line. They don't want to leave because they don't want to lose their spot. They end up urinating on people's property, in the alleyways back here. They go around the back of the condos. They go into Murphy's, steal bottles of alcohol. We've arrested number of kids shoplifting from Murphy's. Barry's, do me a favor, they've complained. They have to have an employee on teen nights. They have to have an employee as a bathroom monitor. So rather than that employee taking care of their customers, the employee has to stand there and only let 1 kid in and out of their single bathroom all night long, because the kids need to find a place to go to the bathroom. The proposal for this summer has been 27 teen nights in a 10-week period. That's a lot of teen nights. We asked during our meeting if he would consider doing 1 a week, and he said no. I asked if we could consider doing online ticketing. No. The Marlin is the only nightclub style bar in town that doesn't have professional security. They hire, for teen nights, we've been told they have busboys, waiters. They've hired firefighters to come over and help with the lines, all of which these people are not, they don't know what they're doing trying to deal with groups of people. So the responsibility for dealing with the line that wraps around the block and down the street falls on the police department. So the taxpayers are paying police to babysit kids in line all night long until they get into the bar. And then once they get out of the bar, it's even worse, because they're in there, they're all amped up, they come out, fights come out, we're dealing with that. Then the crowds come out. They're the kids that come down here on the shuttle. They come down from other places on the island on the shuttle. They come from the mainland. Like I said, we've had kids from Burlington City come down to fight kids from one of the Toms River schools. And when we asked them why, they said it was because that's the only teen night they could find. So the problems we're having is when they leave in a huge group of kids. They walk up the streets. They don't have any way to get home because the shuttles are done at 10. So they have no way to get back to where they came from on the island. Some of them are waiting for parents to come pick them up. They generally go towards 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven's parking lot, if you've seen it anytime around midnight, you don't want to pull in there. People have said they're afraid to go in there. When you have 100 kids overtaking a parking lot, it's intimidating. I don't care who you are. It's intimidating to try to go into that store. 7-Eleven deals with the kids walking in, clearing off shelves and running, and try to describe one of those kids out of, the 100 and some kids that are standing outside. It's next to impossible. The neighbors around 7-Eleven said specifically on teen nights, they see an increase. The amount of kids that go behind 7-Eleven and urinate, they go around their dumpster area. They said when the kids are done and they leave, it looks like there was an outdoor festival. There's trash all over the ground. On teen nights, those are the nights that I can't let any of our summer guys have a night off. Now, if we're doing it 27 times, that's 3 nights a week. There's 3 nights a week I can't give people off. Last year, I was even letting people come in for overtime to help cover some of the shifts. So I did some research, and I know you did some research too, Mrs. Ballmiller. I couldn't find any bars that had teen nights. I know you had mentioned Seaside Heights. You thought was the last one. I called and talked to Chief Boyd today, and he said he doesn't know exact year it was, but it was 5 to 7 years ago that they got rid of their teen nights because they were having all the same problems we're having. He said it was the best thing. I won't say the exact words he said, but he said it was the best thing they ever did for their town, is to get rid of teen nights. The kids don't come to those areas and flock to those areas for that. It's just not there for them. Talked about the shuttles. The last thing I'm going to say is teen night generally means under 21. They do not check IDs when you're going in. So that means that you have people under 21, and teens are generally around 12 or 13 years old. Like I said, they're not checking IDs. So you could have a 10-year-old in there with a 20-year-old. And if they're not checking IDs, you could have a 24-year-old if he looks young enough. But you could have a kid in 7th grade in there with a kid that's in college. And the things that are going on in there they're pornographic in nature. And they're happening in the open, and they're happening, people are watching it. It's something that is not a good look for our town. The things that I've seen happening in there, it would never be tolerated in a bar. In any of the bars in this town or any town around us, nobody would ever allow 2 adults to go and do some of the things that I've seen. In there, they would be immediately kicked out. But in teen nights, they're allowed. So that's all I have.
Is that out in the open?
It is
When they
out
do
in the
this?
open. They are sitting on chairs. They're lined up against the walls.
And nobody interrupts them?
It didn't appear to me that anybody was interrupting anything. Not to mention, like I said, the line, I know I talked about the lines outside that last for 1 to 2 hours. There's no way a person can push a stroller down that sidewalk when those kids are lined up. The line used to go down Center Street, but that's an even smaller sidewalk, and it went in front of all those houses. Now the way it comes here, a family on vacation who's out, walking home from someplace does not want to walk by that group of teens. It's, not that they are necessarily trying to fight anybody, but it's intimidating to walk through all those kids. So. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna let Mike come up and talk.
Michael Batista, 1014 West Avenue, Beach Haven. Teen Night's been around for a long time, 30 some odd years. It is meant to provide a
Speak a
supervised,
little more into the phone. I'm having trouble.
it's meant to provide a supervised, safe environment for teenagers, which don't have a lot to do here visiting in Beach Haven. They come with their families, many of them come with their friends. It is a good event. A couple of weeks ago, I was asked to come in to listen to some of the problems that we were having with Teen Night. We take them very seriously. And we want to work with council, with the chief, to solve many of the problems. The first one, and probably the one that's out there that seems to be the most disturbing, is the inappropriate behavior inside the restaurant. that we can stop immediately. I have not seen these images that you're all talking about. I don't know where they came from, but I could tell you that it's not our intent to allow anything like that to happen. And we will stop it immediately, and we'll put somebody on alert to make sure that that doesn't happen. That's the first thing. As far as the line is concerned, I think we can do several things to improve the line. Passage by pedestrians on the sidewalk is important. We'll certainly can keep that open so that pedestrians can walk down the sidewalk without being obstructed. As far as shortening the line, I think we can do some things to speed the line up and shorten it. We certainly can put more people out on the sidewalk. If the chief wants us to hire a professional firm to be out on the sidewalk to work with his staff, we can do that as well. The issue of the backpacks can be resolved in a large part by having a backpack check. And we will put somebody on checking backpacks and issuing tags to people who have to come in with a backpack. And they would have to have that tag with them to retrieve the backpack when they leave. The other issue that wasn't mentioned by the chief that seems to be out there is we don't allow adults into a teen night for a lot of reasons. And there has been a lot of concern about parents being able to come in and get their children if they want to. So we will certainly accommodate that and have somebody available at all times that we have a teen night to escort a parent through the restaurant to find their teen if in fact they want to retrieve their teen.
What about the number of teen nights? Can you lower that?
We started doing 3 nights a week, and it was successful. And if it's necessary to reduce that, we'll go down to 2 nights a week.
Any questions from the council?
I just have a question, because we discussed this the day that we met privately, and I know Mr. Mack, you were there too. The video, the famous video everybody keeps referring to, I know you said you haven't seen it, and I know, Mr. Mack, you said you weren't familiar with it either. Okay, what I saw, and I don't know if this is the time or place to show it, but it was like a huge part of the room. So when you're telling me that you never saw it and you had no knowledge of it, that makes me question, like, well, what kind of supervision do you have going on in there that something that was pretty all-inclusive as far as the space in your bar went unnoticed? And it just kind of makes me feel very, very leery about going forward. You say, you'll make an effort to step it up, but how did you miss that?
Where did this video come from, Colleen?
Well,
I haven't heard of where it came from, and I haven't seen it.
okay. Well, I do know that the chief does have a copy of it.
But where did it come from?
I don't know. It's pretty obvious that it is the Marlin, and that's my concern, that something like this could go on. I know there was a still video that you saw, and you said that could be Photoshopped. The actual still photo could be, but the video itself would be very difficult to Photoshop. So I mean, I'm just concerned, like, it's like, I appreciate the fact that you are saying you can work with us and all that, but there's just like this huge lack of supervision that I'm concerned about, because it happened.
Well, I can assure you that either I will be there every night or CJ will be there, and it won't happen.
Are you there at teen nights?
Sometimes I am, sometimes I am not.
Who's doing the supervision there?
When
Who's the supervisor that's watching over these kids?
when I am not there, we have a floor manager on who's supervising the event.
What's his name?
Several different people last year who we had as supervisors. I go back and look at the employee list and tell you who they are.
Well, if this is.
CJ is there a lot. I'm there a lot, but we're not there all the time. But I can represent that I'm certainly going to be there all the time now that we're on.
I'm really having a hard time with this. Because I finally saw the movie or the film.
Do we know where it came from, Mike?
I have an idea where it came from.
What's your idea of where it came
Well,
from?
I'm not going to tell you that
Well, I
because
think-
then
I
I
think it-
might be wrong. But I
Okay,
have a pretty good idea on where it did come from. What was going on in there was just absolutely absurd that juveniles are doing this. There's adults that went to strip clubs that don't do this.
I think,
No.
I'm not
I'll
gonna
show-
address that.
You'll see the video.
I don't know where this video is. I don't know where it came from. All I can tell you is that we'll be in there supervising and make sure that that never happens,
Do
whatever's
you
on
have
that
cameras
video.
in the place?
Yes,
Are they on?
yes.
And you never saw any of this?
I have not seen the video that you are all referring to.
Do you record what goes on in your bar on teen night?
Yeah, the video cameras are on.
Do you, and you have recordings of this? Do you review the recordings?
Only if necessary.
You don't want to know what's going, nobody has said anything to you about what was going on in your
No.
place during this?
I just heard it from you guys when I saw you 2 weeks ago.
I'm
Now
gonna
you're-
beg to differ with you on that one,
Okay,
because you were confronted with this last year,
I was not.
okay?
I was
Uh,
not.
The chief could tell us where he got the video.
It was submitted through an anonymous parent. And I have it. If you'd like to see, you can make an appointment with me anytime. And I'll show.
Okay.
Fact of the matter is, there will be no inappropriate behavior, and I will be there to ensure that, or CJ, and we won't rely on management to do it.
Like what 2 nights a week are you proposing?
2 nights a week. We did it last week. Last year, we did Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So we would probably, I'd have to talk to CJ about how he wants to handle it, but maybe Tuesday and Sunday.
This is just a discussion.
Yes,
At this point, we haven't made any decisions. And I think, the discussion has to go on, and obviously we need to make a decision fairly soon. So you can go ahead and plan. I do,
Michael,
yes.
sorry,
wanna-
I'm sorry, finish Nancy. I thought you were finished. Pardon me.
No, that's about all I have to say. I do think it's important that you see this video. It might be, I mean, I can understand why you just wouldn't look at your videos going on. I mean, nobody does. There's videos in 7-Elevens and Wawas, and nobody looks at those unless there's a problem, but you might want to just spot check some of your videos just to see if there's any of this behavior. I've seen videos that were produced by artificial intelligence that are so real that I can't, I just can't believe it. But, and that could be, we do not know. So, I mean, I think everybody's innocent till proven guilty. I basically don't, I think we need to, know more, and this behavior has to stop. And if you can run in my opinion, if you can run a teen night that is fun for kids and isn't giving Beach Haven a reputation of being the sex city, that perhaps, we can continue with this. That's my feeling. Kitty, you want to say something?
I'm disappointed that you haven't made the time to see the video, and I think you should see it. CJ should see it, Kara should see it, you should see it, and that's something that you will have to work on. I did hear you say, just want to clarify that you will hire professional security.
if the chief feels that that'll help, we certainly will.
And you're gonna have a backpack check. I think the majority of the complaints for the chief were the backpacks being stolen, they're all in a big pile, and I can understand.
The problem with the backpacks was that we don't allow backpacks in the building for obvious reasons. And a lot of kids show up with their backpacks. And when we don't let them in, they'll take their backpack and they'll hide it behind a tree or something. And people are watching them do that. And there are people out there that aren't nice. Some of them aren't nice. A lot of them are very nice. And they're pilfering the backpacks. Then when we decided to allow them to put their backpack in the lobby of the restaurant, when they were exiting, a black backpack was a black backpack, and somebody just grabbed the black backpack and ran out with it. And it wasn't theirs, and then that became a problem. So we still don't want to allow backpacks in the building, but in an instance where someone comes with a backpack, to try to mitigate this issue with pilfering and people stealing the backpacks, we'll have a check, a bag check, and they'd have to retrieve their backpack with the other side of that ticket.
Okay, you're gonna go down to 2 nights. See, 1 night, but 2 nights. And I don't know what you'll do about the line. Do you have any suggestions for that? Could you make, just sort of making sure they're not taking up the whole sidewalk? I mean, I think if you did online ticketing, you would still get kids there early to line up. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know. I think that's something you need to work on.
How many kids can you let in there at a time?
At full capacity?
Yeah.
600 or so. I'd have to look at the occupancy on the door.
And how many are, I mean, just a ballpark figure, but how many are out there waiting to get in?
I've never counted them. I don't know the answer to that question.
Just
You answer
curious.
one question for me.
Sure, Mike.
You didn't answer my question when I asked you when we had our meeting. If you had a 13-year-old daughter, would you let her in that place?
Yes.
That was not your answer the other day.
What was my answer?
Well, I would really have to think about it.
Okay, well, what was it?
That's what you said.
Yes.
Well, that's crazy.
Mike, there are a lot of teenagers that go there and enjoy the hell out of it and have a
Well, I
great
imagine they
time.
do.
That's a sarcastic response, Mike.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
I'm
well,
sorry.
then I'm not going to address it then.
Well, there is one other concern too, that we've talked about, even, with all these measures to try to mitigate, is what happens, as the chief was explaining, after these kids leave. Because the town is still experiencing issues. That's not your problem per se. But the fact that these kids are now loose in the town, we've got a curfew, but they're going out, you got 500-600 kids in there, they're going out in all different directions. It becomes the town's problem. And I know the chief mentioned about Seaside, an official from Point Pleasant Beach, said the same thing. It's like, yeah, we got rid of it a few years ago. He goes, it's been so much better since. I mean, I know the kids want a place to go, but Beach Haven is now the place to go for everybody, between here and Timbuktu.
Our teen nights aren't any busier than they were 20 years ago, Colleen.
You
So
still have like 500 to 600, but because, I mean, we're hearing about, they mentioned like, catching the bus from Manahawkin, like Kitty was
Yeah,
saying, they're
but what
local
you're not-
kids. But can't Manahawkin provides, you know what I mean? Like Beach Haven is now responsible for making sure the kids for, a 100-mile radius have a place to go. And, and Nancy, to your point, you said a lot of places do, and they do. They have these clubs, but it's pursuant to the liquor license. That's what the teen night is specifically devoted to. Like I said, I'm just trying to figure out pros and cons, and I can't see where the pros outweigh the cons for the town. I mean, I know it's your business, and I don't want to take away anything from your business, but I've heard very good things about your restaurant. I've been in there once or twice, and I would hope that that business would be enough to carry you, because the teen night, I feel, is really putting a strain on this town.
what you're not hearing about at teen night are all the families that, for instance, they sit at Barry's, outside Barry's, waiting for their kids. They're down on vacation with their teenagers and they want something for their teenagers to do. They come into Triton. The women, the husbands, the friends sit out front waiting for their kids to come out of teen night. They come in before, have something to eat. The kids go wait in line. They wait for them out in front of the restaurant, and then they take them home. There are a lot of cars lined up there ready to take their kids home. It's important that, the other thing that you said, you would hope that the restaurant could make it as a restaurant. The teen night revenue is important, and we've been trying to stay open now through the winter. We're not making any money through the winter. I think it's a benefit to the town. CJ wants to do it, and I'm sticking with it. This December, we raised and donated $10,000 to the Southern Regional High School as a consequence of that whole Christmas raffle and so forth. So it's all helping. I mean, look at Bistro 14. It's hard. Let me tell you something. The cost of food's up, the cost of labor's up. It's very difficult to make a real profit that makes it all worthwhile. Air conditioners that cost $45,000 when I first was in business, we have 3 on the top of the roof. We have to replace 2 of them at $125,000 a piece. So the revenue is important. How do we balance that with the other aggravated issues in front of 7-Eleven and so forth? That's a complicated question. How do we control what's going on inside our place that we can deal with immediately?
I agree with everything you said about the restaurants. I know it's tough, and I know you have a limited season. We have a lot of other restaurants that are making it. I do feel badly about Bistro 14, but I mean, I still have an awful lot of concerns.
I appreciate your concerns, and we're here to work with the council to make this work. And if you give us a year, I'm sure you're going to see a huge difference. If you, at the end of the season, can appreciate that it's working, then we can move on. If you don't, then we're in trouble.
I understand that it's hard to have the business, but I mean, at what price are we going to have to pay for this?
I
Because
don't
it's-
think you're going to pay, Mike. I think we're hearing what you're saying, and we're going to fix the problems.
Okay, can you fix the problems of buses coming in from out of town?
I'm not-
From
I'm not
far
su-
away?
Some of those kids coming in from out of town go home and tell their parents, Beach Haven's a really cool place, Mom and Dad. Let's go and vacation there next week. Mike, your parents were born and raised in this town. You were born and raised in this town. It doesn't exist anymore, right? We need young families to come into this town. We need to have the exposure. We're a resort town. And that's the way it is. And so we have to champion resort type of entertainment.
But do we
And
need that kind of exposure?
I think so. I think we need as many people in this town enjoying having a great time that we can. We don't need the rowdies in town. No, Mike. I stand out there many, many, many nights and deal with punks, right?
Oh, I know. I've seen
And
that.
you know what? The interesting thing about it is that we'll flag somebody for coming in because whatever reason, okay? A million stupid reasons, but we tell them you can't come in, and they're embarrassed because they're there with their friends and now they're not allowed to come in. They have nowhere to go. And so they sit out front on the park bench there waiting for teen night to get over. All right. I distinctly remember a young kid coming back the next week and say, I just wanted to come and apologize for my bad behavior. So it is a learning experience for these kids too, right? And we're trying to teach them respect. And in some respects, we are getting results out of it. In other respects, we're not. I mean, we get kids in there that go in there and kick the doors open on the in the bathrooms. We have a bathroom attendant now because of that. So there are going to be bad kids. I'm not going to say there aren't, but there are a lot more good kids than there are bad kids. And I don't see that we should shut the thing down because of the bad aspects of it without trying to fix the real issues that we're dealing with here today. And I think we can fix them.
And I agree with you. There are a lot more good kids out there than there are bad. But it's still the same thing. We're getting these people from everywhere. They're not locals.
We've always had that, Mike. I mean, I remember you and I
don't
back when
remember
we started to
people being
catch.
bussed in from, because we're the only place that is having this. Well, it's.
Let's keep it close. I'll
not
keep
good
it close.
for our town.
I think teen night is good for our town,
I
but that's,
will disagree with you.
well, obviously.
All right, let's take some time. The next meeting will bring the draft ordinance for consideration by council and we'll let it come to a vote.
I have one more quick question. Once you're in teen night, are you allowed to go in and out?
No,
Okay.
Once you go out, you're out.
once you go out,
You
you're
can't
out.
come back.
No.
Okay.
We're very strict on, obviously, alcohol and kids are drinking, 17-year-olds are drinking. There are no 20, 21 and 22-year-old kids in there. The average age is about 16 and 15. 15 and 16 is about the average age. There's no one under the age of 13 in there. And very rarely do you see very young kids in there that are 13.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think at this point, we should go down this list and then open the floor to the public.
Okay, I'll go as quickly as possible. There's 3 proposed ordinances listed here: the tree removal replacement ordinance, a privately owned salt storage ordinance, and the municipal stormwater control ordinance. Because we have a Tier A MS4 stormwater permit, we are required to adopt these ordinances as part of that permit. So it's a condition of the permit, so we are required to do that. The tree removal replacement has some exemptions in it that I think would really kind of exempt the town. It says that residents who remove less than 4 trees per acre within a 5-year rolling period would be exempt. So, I mean, it's a mandate from the state. The rest of the changes in general, the state is recommending how engineers are required to calculate stormwater runoff. As a result, drainage basins and other stormwater management components will need to be a little larger to account for future predicted 24-hour rainfall runoff quantity. The state will now require a multiplication factor to be used when determining current and future runoff calculations to the 2, 10, and 100-year storm runoff.
Right, these are for major developments, which would be which would cover over an acre, so. But this, again, these are coming down from the state that we have to adopt.
Yeah, so those 3 ordinance really are boilerplate mandates. Any questions?
No.
You had a fun time.
I mean, I personally would like to see how we could come up with an ordinance, something like this that could pertain to us, you know, possibly changing the language by saying, you know, leaving out per acre. I mean, it kills me when you see a lot being cleared and nobody takes into consideration digging up some trees or replanting the trees. It's, you know, we look around, everybody says Beach Haven's not the way it used to be. I mean, if we started by making people plant trees or donate to a fund for us to plant the trees where we so chose, I don't know why we wouldn't do that. And I don't know why we haven't done that for years. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is a solid waste ordinance. A few months ago, we adopted a resolution as a temporary measure to allow some businesses that operate year-round to be able to get some garbage collection during the off-season from our Public Works Department. We did say in the language of that resolution that an ordinance would be required, so we're just memorializing that initiative to provide garbage service for businesses that operate year-round and that can utilize this type of dumpster in an ordinance.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
We have an ordinance for vehicles and traffic. There was a resident that requested a 4-way stop at Ingleside in Pennsylvania. I know council briefly discussed it and the chief recommended it. So that is the draft of this one for vehicles and traffic. And then the last one is for municipal parking lots. We are looking to redelineate what Taylor Avenue parking lot is. In the past, the actual street end of Taylor Avenue was exempt. And therefore, the requirement that vehicles be out of there between 1 and 4 didn't apply. So we're requesting that it be rewritten that the entire area west of and including Delaware Avenue, between and including Taylor Avenue and 9th Street and Block 202, Lot 11, all be considered Taylor Avenue and be permitted under this requirement to not have vehicles from 1 to 4.
Right,
Makes sense?
1 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Yes.
Right. I don't see any problems with that.
So we're getting rid of that, those
Okay.
exemptions.
All right, so that's it, right?
That's
So
it.
now I'm going to open the floor to public
Budget.
Well, we have the budget, I'm sorry.
Did you want to take comment now? or you
I
wanna
think,
keep going?
yeah, I think it would be a good idea to take comment now. So that means anybody in the audience can get up and express their point of view about anything and state your name and address, and anybody on Zoom as well. Okay, we'll get started right away.
Lori Anderson, 1001 West Avenue. It's about teen night. I'm not a fan. I've been coming to town meetings long enough to know that teen night is a problem. I applaud Bert and Betty's for not having it this year. I think it's great. I applaud the council members and the chief of police coming up to state the facts. Certain towns don't have it because it's not working for them. I don't understand why Beach Haven would even consider it. It's been going on for too long. Year after year, we're talking teen night, and are my tax dollars paying for these extra police to babysit these out-of-town kids? I would imagine my tax dollars aren't where. I know a lot of people in Beach Haven who feel the same way as me. They're not a fan of teen night. So I hope you'll have the backbone to do the right thing. Maybe set an example for this year. Cut it off. Do away with teen night. See how it goes. I mean, yeah, you can get more security. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but it's just too many maybes. This has been going on for years or decades. And I think it's time to clean up Beach Haven and make it a safer place. If I think of anything else, I'll come back. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Anybody on Zoom want to speak? No? Anybody else in the audience? Yes.
Sue Sharkey, 10 North Delaware Avenue. I have two observations or comments. And one is a lot of tonight's discussion has been, a lot of time has been spent on teen night and the curfew. And Beach Haven is tackling basically society's problem of misdirected or poor parenting, because, and that it just falls on us. That's the way of the world. The backpacks are a problem because every teenager carries them either to look like they're cool because they could have a stash in there or because they do have a stash in there. That's just part of what the problem is. So I don't envy you in your decision and in your guidance that you'll give our businesses, but I certainly thank you for your efforts to come to a mediation or some kind of agreement. Nobody wants a business to fail. We want businesses to prosper. We want businesses to prosper and do well. My second observation is, I think you just posted a recreation director type thing. Am I correct? And I'm like so happy about that. That's something that transpired from, I think, a committee that you kind of said just almost at a meeting, and it happened, and a lot of good came out of that. And I just wonder if, I live in a fantasy world sometimes, and I wonder, I want teens to have something to do too. If businesses would consider a teen morning, and if that took off, I thought that would be a really good thing, but obviously that's not what they're going for. I think an open air, I've said this a lot about a lot of different things at Taylor Avenue, open air, if people could see what was going on, maybe it would be a little bit different. And you talk about security for teen night. I think about chaperoning high school mosh pits, dances. And unless you're in it, like nobody wants to be in that. I promise you, no adult wants to be in that. We don't want to see things that we can't unsee and things like that. Unless you're in it, you can't, the videos are going to happen of the things that shouldn't be happening. So I have this vision of this recreation person could create a really cool thing happening, open air, so we do give something to our teens as a nice balance, because we don't want to be the no fun town, and many teens are wholesome. Unfortunately, it's kind of run amok, it sounds like, from the problems that are evident.
That's
So,
great.
thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay, anybody else I guess we have nobody on Zoom,
You
right?
have one now.
Okay, so go ahead.
Jason Murray.
Hello, Jason Murray, back again, 408 Coral Street, Beach Haven. Just want to follow up the last comment that was just made, agreeing and supporting that if kids are going to have a curfew of 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or whatever that ends up being, and you're taking away teen night, which is something, or considering doing so, something that a lot of kids do value, maybe it's time to revisit the skate park and bring that back in on the table, because that is a wholesome activity that kids can do. It does keep kids off the street. It gives them an opportunity to recreate, to play, to congregate in an area that is controllable and observable, and it could help out. So that's the one comment on that. And then the other question I have is regarding the boat ordinance that will take effect May 15th. Where can we learn about the procedure or steps to apply for permit, timing, all of that?
You can call the clerk's office.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody in the audience want to get up and speak? Yes.
Deb Whitcraft, 528 Dock Road. So no permits will be issued before 9 a.m. May 15th. Is that correct?
Correct.
You can't fill any out before 9 a.m. May 15th.
Correct.
Perfect. What I got up to ask about, I got an email from a local businessman, and I don't know whether or not this is true, which is why I'm reading his email to me for your benefit. He says, with regard to beach replenishment, it's going out for bid, and he's talking about Beach Haven beach replenishment. It's going out for bid May 1st, awarded May 15th, notice to proceed May 30th through June 15th. And the schedule of work must be within 15 days of the notice to proceed. Most businesses in town have no idea. Who the hell is going to rent a house or hotel room for top dollar for a Beach Haven vacation with the risk of the beach on their street being closed, or to sit on the beach staring at heavy equipment working? People with rental homes or businesses should be up in arms. And I don't know if any of this is true. Whether you're, and he goes on in his
It is
email to
true.
say, whether you're for or against beach replenishment in general is irrelevant. The timing is the issue. So my question to you, is this true?
Yes,
It is true. They are bidding the project,
May 1st.
expecting to issue the notice to proceed June 15th, and having the contractor is the one that gets to set the construction schedule and the date, as long as it's completed by March 10th, 2025. But the Barrow area now is not the inlet, which would have been nice, because then the project would have been forced into the off season.
Right.
The Barrow area is off of Harvey Cedars, and the Harvey Cedars and Love Ladies project is the larger of the two replenishment projects. It's a little over 1 million cubic yards. So we can assume that they will start there, because that is the Barrow area, that they will
Okay.
borrow and deposit in Harvey Cedars and Love Ladies first, and not make their way down to our end of the island. Our North Beach Haven and Holgate are 650,000 cubic yards until after the summer. But we cannot.
But you don't have any authority
have any
to
control.
regulate when that work is done. I just want to
Right.
be able to answer this guy, because he's in
And
business.
I'm gonna call him tomorrow too, that, we were told that the plan is that they're gonna close 1,000 feet of beach at a time, which is one block, and that will move one block per day.
Yeah.
It will move quickly, and it's a 24/7 operation, be overnight.
Sure. Good. Thank you very much. If I give you, I'll call you and
call
give
me.
you his, and have
Yeah.
you speak to him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come forward and talk? All right, so you want to come back? Okay. You may, yes.
Lori Anderson, 1001 West Avenue. Sue reminded me of something I forgot to say, and that was yeah, we do have the field down there at Taylor Avenue, so maybe there could be a little music, something down there for teens to listen to, keep them outdoors, but not drinking. Kids don't belong in bars. And then we have that beautiful ball field that maybe you could advertise, pick up games. We used to have pickup games in Beach Haven. It was a wonderful thing. And maybe they could wear Marlin t-shirts or something and maybe advertise it for a certain time of the day. It's
That's a
still
great
something for teens
idea.
to do.
It's a great idea.
It'll
So
keep the bum teens that are just coming to drink maybe away, but in lieu of teen night, we're trying to come up with some other activities and, do ball games 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. They're free.
great. And again, anybody else before we move on? We still have a lot of business to do here. All right, so there, I am closing the floor to public comment. And now we'll move on to the budget.
Okay. The budget this year, 2024, it has a total appropriations of $15,435,861.78. This is a decrease, a 1.03% decrease overall from last year's appropriations. Some significant changes in this budget. The salary and wage increased 1.69%, while our operating expenses decreased 2.71%, leaving the amount to be raised by taxation at $9,037,800. The CFO, with the remarks from council, is recommending a 2-cent increase over our prior year, setting the tax rate at 0.413. Our net valuation is 2.18 billion, and we saw a 1.1427% increase over last year. We're also seeing an increase in the library tax levy, and our minimum appropriation that's required is increased 21.16% over last year. We have some significant increases in our liability insurance, workers' comp, and other insurances that are beyond our control. Our liability insurance is increasing 15.38%, workers' comp 23.87% over last year, and our pension required contribution has increased 7.58% over last year. And again, these are things out of our control. To balance our budget, every year we utilize surplus. This year we're going to be utilizing 70,000 in additional in surplus to balance the budget, in addition to the 2-cent increase. Those two things will balance the budget for this. The surplus amount is that we're using to fund the budget is approximately 25% of the budget. Because of that, this year, when we were planning the budget, we did do some significant budget cuts. We discussed those with council, those cuts that we made. I know there was a request to discuss one of those issues, and that was the drone expense that we were considering. It was a $25,000 expense that is not included in this budget. So I just wanted some quick feedback from council or your feelings on that. It was not included in this budget. Was this something that you still wanted to pursue? If you did, then we would be looking at doing a self-funded capital ordinance. Colleen, did you want to discuss that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. It came up from the Parks and Rec Committee, and I know everybody, I think, universally agrees that a drone would be an awesome thing to have, and it would be very handy. A couple of the towns on the island do have them. I know we just went to the mat with the budget. I mean, the 2-cent increase. We never knew. First time we're hearing about it, we all had to put in what we thought. So that's a lot. And I know the Parks and Rec was really hoping to get the drone, and primarily for the lifeguards, but then of course the police department, fire department, everybody else, if we bought it municipally. There was talk about trying to get private people to kick in and buy the drone. At this point in time, 25K, I know the chief said, with his research and the fact that we can no longer buy the more cost efficient drones because they're made in China. We're not allowed to have them anymore. It's a big hit. I don't know what to say. I mean, there are so many things that this town needs. And as nice as a drone would be, I'm not sure at this point in time. Kitty, I know you sat in on all these meetings. What are you thinking?
I know, well, when the first came up, the idea of a drone on the park committee, we all said that we would, especially Don, who really, this was sort of his baby, would raise the money for it and have a fundraiser for it. And then the borough said, well, you know what, we'll pay for it. So I still think that there's a possibility to raise the money for it. So at this point, this year, and I know we've gone back and forth and public doesn't know this, just like conversations with the chief and some members of the park committee in regards to just like the Chinese situation and being able to order the ones that you now can order are much more expensive than what we had anticipated when we talked about it at our original park meetings. So based upon that, I think you're right, Colleen. I think it's tough for this year to ask for the money for that. But I do support having a fundraiser, trying to get some public, get some funds from the public, which is a shame. I think it would be really great for the police force, for the department, and for certainly our beach patrol. So I'm sad about it, but I don't know.
The 25, did that include the training? It didn't, did it?
I don't think it did, no. And that's,
No.
That's public doesn't, you have to have.
Another 3,000 to 4,000, right?
Yeah.
Well, there is the possibility of fundraising and maybe some grant money.
Okay.
I would think, we can investigate that route and relook at it again next year.
Absolutely. We'll keep it on our plates.
Yeah.
As far as the water utility budget goes, we did see an increase of 95,000 on interest on our notes, and we funded it with additional 95,000 in surplus. Their total appropriations for the water utility is $1,952,500, and the total appropriations for the sewer utility budget is $1,605,000. Any questions on the budget before I read the resolution? Okay. The municipal budget of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean for the fiscal year 2024, be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year of 2024. Be it further resolved that the budget be published in the Beach Haven Times, issue of May 2nd, 2024. And the governing body of the Borough of Beach Haven does hereby approve the following as the budget for the year 2024. I'll roll call. Mrs. Ballmiller.
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
Mr. McCaffrey.
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution was approved by the council members of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean on April 25th, 2024. A hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held on May 30th, 2024 at 4 o'clock, at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2024 may be presented by taxpayers and other interested persons. Thank you. Public comment.
Do we have any public comment on the budget? Anybody on Zoom?
Well, you can open for full public comment at this point.
Yeah, well,
You don't
Yeah.
need the budget.
yeah, I mean, well, we did already
did
open it
public
for
comment.
full public
Then
comment.
you can go.
We just got through that.
You can do whatever you like.
We didn't open it for the budget, but if anybody wants to speak now, this would be the appropriate time. No? Okay. So, so we're basically, back to final remarks by council. We're almost done. So would you like to start, Colleen?
Sure. Jamie, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder here, but the PTA fundraiser, were you going to cover that?
No, it's sold out.
It is sold out. But,
Sold out.
well, I actually went down today and made a donation because I went online to get a ticket and apparently they sold out several days ago. So you still have that option if you'd like to support the Beach Haven PTA. The fire department, right, Chief? Block party Saturday? Okay, block party at Veterans Bicentennial Park, whatever we call it these days, from 1 to 6, correct? Okay, so please come out and support the fire department real quick, 'cause I know this meeting's running long. We had a meeting about the turbines a couple weeks ago, and unfortunately, we've lost at the state level, which we kind of knew we were going to do because the people we were appealing to were appointed by Governor Murphy, who's full steam ahead with these. So now our next move is to go to the appellate court. And we feel we'll have a much better chance there. And barring that, the Superior Court, which they really feel will have a very good shot at. Unfortunately, as far as the historic district went, our appeal from that basis was shot down. Our preliminary was, and then our appeal was shot down. So we're not having a lot of luck right now, but we're cautiously optimistic that things will improve in the future. Thank you.
Kitty, how about you?
Thank you. I wanted to thank Chief Markowski for coming tonight. I know it's a lot, he really had to have a lot to say tonight, and I really appreciate him coming out. Thank you very much. You always really shed so much light on everything for us. It's really appreciated. The other thing is, and I forgot to mention this at the last meeting, and Sue Sharkey just texted me to remind me, thank you, Sue, that May 18th is going to be hopefully our first annual Heritage Day in Beach Haven. It's a celebration of our rich history going back to the late 1800s and the 100th birthday of the town and its first 2 homes. We're having an open house tour of homes. You can get your tickets online. We're having 6 of the oldest houses, 2 of which are, as I said, the 2 oldest homes that were built in Beach Haven on 2nd Street. The owners have graciously are allowing us to open their homes to the public. Tickets are available through the LBI Museum. They've been so great running through, helping us with everything. And also Deb and the Maritime Museum have been great. We're all at that day, as well as a house tour. There will be open houses in the library, in the museums. We're going to have presentations at a couple of the museums. You can find all of that out within the museums. We're going to have, at the end of the day, a birthday party in the park, and weather permitting, and if not in the museum, or a combination of both, the LBI Museum rather, because we have the park, we're going to have 2 big cakes just to celebrate the birthday of these 2 beautiful homes. And we have a lot of involvement from businesses, and we're hoping that everyone will embrace the theme with old photos of the way it used to look. And I hope everyone will buy some tickets and come join us. You could be a sponsor, you can donate. All of the money for this event will go directly to beautification of Veterans Park, since it is in the center of the historic district. And this year, the house tour focuses on the historic district. So come one, come all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jamie?
Kitty, thank you for working on the Heritage Day. I know you put a lot of work in it. If anyone else on council was involved in that as well, but I know that Kitty and a lot of volunteers put in a lot of time for that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and the Beach Haven Chamber is helping us as well. Lindsay Ryan started it. So, and Sally Popletti, it's been a joint effort. A bunch of people have helped out. Thank you. Thanks.
Right. And the fundraiser for the school. And then there's the Maritime Museum also is having their fundraiser Saturday, May 4th as well, 4 to 9 I think it's at Bird and Betty's. Yeah, Bird and Betty's. So there's a lot of fundraisers. There's a lot of events happening in May. So please come out and support your local schools, businesses, museums, and I'm sure we'll see everyone there.
Thank you.
I forgot about Deb's fundraiser. That'll be a good one. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody on council for this Pearl Street ordinance. There was a lot of input, and I think it's a good compromise.
Thank you. And hopefully everybody will support the fundraisers. And thank you for coming. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So thank you.
Second.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.